I'm going to show you how I pressure can sweet potato.
When you're pressure canning food, there's a lot going on. So if you get everything set up and organised before you start, it will make the process of pressure canning your food way more enjoyable. Hi guys, I'm Elisa at Moat Cottage Homesteading, the small space homesteading channel. I'm not a qualified master canner, but I have been canning for about 4 or 5 years now quite successfully. So I'm going to show you how I pressure can sweet potatoes using my blue book, Guide to Preserving. It's a ball mason book. Pressure canning is a science, so I stick to the rules so I can keep it safe. I don't want anybody getting sick, so I follow the book.
Wash your sweet potatoes under cold running water, drain, then boil or steam the potatoes until the peel can be easily removed. Set up your pressure canner as per your manufacturer's specifications, adding the right amount of water. Make sure you have your tray in the bottom, some vinegar, your dial gauge set up to your lid, everything checked, and your weighted gauge.
The sweet potatoes have been washed, boiled until the skins remove easily. I've strained them out of the hot water and let them cool down only enough that I can actually handle them and remove the skins. Now, while they were cooling down, I've set up my jars, which have been sterilised. I've got all my tools out, and you can't see, it's out of camera shot, but I have my rings, lids, and my bowl of vinegar ready. All I have to do is add water into those when the time comes, and I won't do that just yet. Next, we're going to check our jars to make sure the rims have no chips or nicks in them, because if they do, the lids won't seal properly because there'll be a gap. And we're going to check the jars to make sure there's no cracks in them. I'm using my Presto pressure canner today, and it holds 7 quart jars. I just gently cut the ends off, just ever so slightly, score the side, and the skin peels right off. In the book it says cut the sweet potatoes into quarters. Now the problem with that is, in my opinion, is that we get sweet potatoes that can be like this, or we can get sweet potatoes like this. Now the difference with that is going to be considerable. So I'm going to cut them in about, let's see, 1-inch pieces,
Making sure they're all the same size.
and start filling up my jars.
It's not recommended by the National Centre for Home Food Preservation to mash or puree sweet potatoes, so you want to have it in the chunks for safe home canning. I'll leave the link in the description below for the National Centre for Home Food Preservation, so if you want any information, that is the place to go.
Try not to burn your hands if the potatoes are still hot. Remove any blemishes that you find as well, and if there's any bad potatoes, obviously don't put them in. We only want quality. Because we've got to leave 1-inch headspace, I'm just going to make sure all the jars are filled up as much as they can without being too compressed, because we need to get all the air bubbles out and have water circulation around the pieces. Just want to make sure they've got as much potato in as they can fit, but so they'll still can properly. Add some more mortar to the lids at this stage. I've just turned the canner on to warm it up, and this warm mortar for the lids will soften the seal. I'm going to put some for the rings as well. I'm topping the jars up with warm water. It's about 82 degrees Celsius, which is 185 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to leave 1 inch headspace. Don't use the water you've cooked your sweet potatoes in, because even though you've washed them, they'll still have dirt on them, and you just don't want that. Also, you'll get a better product because it will be clearer if you use fresh water. It gets a bit cloudy if you use the recycled water that you've boiled the potatoes in. The same goes with regular potatoes as well. Remove the air bubbles by sliding the debubbler tool down the side and squeezing in without damaging the sweet potatoes. And just work our way around the jar. To measure your 1 inch headspace, you've got your measuring tool, and the top tier there is 1 inch. So we're going to place that part on the jar. And I've got a little bit too much water there. So I can get a clean spoon and remove that until I get exactly the right measurement that I want. Usually it's the other way around and you're filling them up. But I've gone a little bit overboard today. But that's okay. Try not to have it on an angle. Try and have it straight up and down. That looks pretty good. Just push that down and do it again. Try and get a flat surface. Perfect. I like that one. Okay. I've got a clean tea towel and I'm dipping it into my vinegar. It's just white vinegar. And I'm going to wipe the top of my jar rims with that so that I can get any food off, any of that residue. I'm doing the thread at the same time just because I like a clean thread. And then I'm going to use the dry side and wipe that dry. Gives me the best chance to get a good seal. And that's exactly what I want. Do that to all of the jars, using a different part of the cloth each time. Try not to burn your hands with the hot jar though, because it does get a bit hot. This is the exciting part. We're on the home straight now. The fun part is the pressure canning. We've done the hard work and then we just get to enjoy the pressure canning process. Okay, let's get set up for putting the lids on. Using your magnet tool, place your lid on, center it, get your ring, and put it on finger tight. So I'm not screwing it on really tight, but it is on, and the jar can sort of spin. Get your lid out of the warm water, place it on the jar, center it. Oh. Grab your ring and finger tight. Okay, let's get them in the canner. My pressure can's already set up. It's got 3 quarts of water and some white vinegar. Line the arrows up and give it a twist. So that's on nice and securely now. My vent's nice and clear. Everything's been checked before I started. And now we just need to turn up the heat and get the canner exactly in the centre of the hot plate. We've got consistent steam coming out of the vent pipe, so we're going to let that vent steam for 10 minutes. Make sure you don't get your fingers in the way of the steam when you put your weighted gauge on. And now we just wait for the pressure to build up. Depending on your altitude will depend on the pressure you want to be canning at. If you're below 1,000 feet, you're canning at 10 psi. The jiggler is going to start moving now, and that means it is nearly there. So it will be 11 on my dial gauge, and that's my jiggler moving. It's my weighted gauge and it's got 10 pounds on it. Now I can start timing. Because I'm canning quart jars, it's going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes. If I was canning sweet potatoes in pint jars, it would be 1 hour and 5 minutes. So let's set the timer. And we'll keep an eye on it to make sure it stays at pressure the whole time. If it goes below pressure at any time for any reason, we have to start over again. My 90 minutes is up, so I'm turning off the heat and letting the pressure canner cool down. While your canner is depressurizing, from the time you turn your heat off, don't touch the top of the canner at all. Don't be tempted to play with your jiggler or try and push anything down. Just leave it alone, because if you do play with things, you'll be letting more pressure out too quickly, and there's a chance that your jars won't seal because it will reduce in pressure far too quickly. And you might even get cracks in your jars if you do that. So be patient, just wait. Once you've waited the 5 minutes after this has gone down, we can remove the lid. Now you've got to do it carefully because it is still hot in there and it's going to drip steam and water off the bottom. So we're going to lift it up, turn it to the side, let the water drip off, and then put it somewhere. Put it somewhere where it's not going to melt anything and you're not going to get the dial gauge wet, and that little fingers may not burn themselves on it as well. So just be careful about that and have somewhere ready. I usually use my sink because I don't have any kids in here when I'm pressure canning. Now we have to wait 10 minutes. Protect your surface with a wooden board and put a tea towel or cloth over the top of it so that the jars aren't going to get any shock from a cold surface, because the jars are obviously very hot. Let your jars cool down somewhere where they're not going to be disturbed. They're very hot and you don't want anyone to burn their fingers on them. It could be a nasty accident. Don't be tempted to tighten up your rings if they've come loose in the canning process. Just leave them. In 12 hours time, we're going to remove the rings, and then you can check your lids to make sure the seals have sealed. Any that haven't sealed, you can pop those jars in the fridge and you can eat those within a few days. But hopefully all of your lids have sealed and you can wash the jars in warm soapy water, dry them, and then write on the lids what's in them and the date that you canned it. And then they're right to go on your shelf. If you want to see some of my other pressure canning recipes or learn more about pressure canning, then check out my playlist. And if you want to learn more about small space homesteading, then you can check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
It's 12 hours later, I've removed all of the rings and all of my jars have sealed properly.